And we are live. Good Monday night. Welcome back. We've had a bit of a break, a bit longer of a break than I planned, but such is life. Baruch Hashem, we're back. We've had our Simchat Torah. We danced. We were joyous. We merited to see many wonders. I was with us live on YouTube.
And wait, I want to actually, before we start, I think it's important that we all make an election prediction. And my election prediction,
Mashiach.
Yeah, Mashiach. Right. No, at that end, my prediction is that our sukkahs are still going to be up after the election. That's my prediction. I predict that.
All right. Yes. And so today is Chav Zayin Tishrei. So we're going to summarize, especially because it's been a while. Let's review, and then we're going to go into deeper. So, סיכום. מדברי חז"ל במדרש וגמרא עולה שמיד עם חורבן הכיל הקדוש ברוך הוא אדם אמור לגאול את ישראל מיד כאשר יזכו. So, based on the words of our sages that we learned weeks ago, and the Gemara, the moment that God destroyed the Beit HaMikdash, he already prepared a person who was worthy to redeem the Jewish people immediately, in the same generation. If the Jewish people merit, this person, אותו אדם הוא מנהיג ישראל, נמצא עם ישראל בצרתם, גאולתם מצטער בצרתם. This person is with the Jewish people in their galut. He feels their sorrow, he feels their fear, their worries. הוא ממתין בקוצר רוח וכיליון עיניים להתגלות ולגאול אותם. And this person can't wait to reveal himself and redeem them. וכך הרי אכן מצאנו שכבר בזמן שחז"ל הצביעו על מנהיגי ישראל, רבי יהודה הנשיא בדורו, רב נחמן בדורו ועוד. And there are many times the sages pointed at Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi, this is the Mashiach of the generation. Or Rav Nachman in his generation and more. בתור המשיח שבדור, וכן ובכל דור ודור עד רבותינו יסיינו בדורות האחרונים. And we can say, and in the last generations, and certainly the leaders of Chabad are the ones who we can point and say, these are the people who are worthy, who could be the Mashiach of the generation. בהסברה פנימית יותר, if we go deeper, המשיח שבדור הוא לא רק אחד המוכן לגאול ישראל באם יזכו, שאז יעשה למשיח. So we'll go deeper. The Mashiach of the generation is not just one who's ready to redeem the Jewish people if they merit. That's what we initially said. No. Then he'll become Mashiach. No. He already has the power of Mashiach within them in the time of exile. And but this power of Mashiach is simply concealed. But when the redemption will come, may it be speedily, it will be revealed completely. So this is why, even in time of exile, you can see with the Mashiach generation a connection and a relationship to bringing Mashiach. Really waiting different actions that are in an example and like the actions of Mashiach. And this is, as the Rebbe said about Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi in his generation, and the Rambam in his generation. Each of them were someone who was very expecting Mashiach to come, and they were the ones who were most likely to be Mashiach in generation. And certainly we can apply the same rule to the Rebbe of our generation. This is the Mashiach of our generation. The person who, as we said, by the Rebbe, the power of Mashiach was much more revealed than by even previous generations. Both in how much he was expecting Mashiach and how much it was a thing that the Rebbe focused on, as well as just the relationship to the coming Mashiach and actions that would to bring the redemption to the point where we've already reached the level of, as we said, Cheskat Mashiach, a likely Mashiach. All right, so now we're going to go in deeper understanding. Is Mashiach a leader of the Jewish people, or is he a poor man with leprosy? So seemingly, what are we talking about? בתוך הפרק הנזכר הוזכר סיפור חז"ל אודות התינוק הנולד ביום חורבן הבית. We talked about in the chapter a story that there was a baby born on the same day that the temple was destroyed, and this baby was worthy to be the redeemer of the Jewish people. The same day the temple was destroyed, Mashiach was born. והמשך הסיפור שלו בא בתוך הפרק, and the story continues, this was not brought in the chapter, שהרוח נשא את אותו התינוקת אל הבלתי נודע, וכן הובא, the story continues, the spirit wind carried this baby to a place that is unknown. וכן הובא הסיפור על פגישת ריבל עם משיח בשער רומי. There's a different story about the meaning of the rebel, I'm not sure the initial stand for. Who met Mashiach in the gate of Rome. Rebel who met Mashiach in the gate of Rome. And our sages explained what are these stories, that are described in our holy books. Should we literally explain them as their simple meaning? Is it literal, or because they seem very far away from natural way, or is it a riddle or an allegory? And the way of the Rebbe, which is explained in the chapter, is the middle way that combines and unites both approaches. These stories have a physical, literal meaning, and a spiritual meaning. But even the physical meaning, the Rebbe doesn't explain in a simple way. In a way that is a little bit allegorical almost, or separated from its literalness a little bit. So how does the Rebbe explain it? In a way that a little makes sense more in the way of nature. Come on. When we're talking about the story that Mashiach was born on the day of the destruction, you can literally understand the story. There was a baby born, and that was Mashiach, right? Literally on that day. In such a case, the Mashiach was born 2,000 years ago. He was a baby, was born when the temple was destroyed about 2,000 years ago. Mashiach is now 2,000 years old, based on, if you take the literal meaning that the baby was born. And he's just hiding out until he's ready to redeem the Jewish people.
He's got a fantastic healthcare program.
Mashiach healthcare. Can't beat it.
Can't beat it.
Live forever.
What a socialist you are, alone.
The Ramban, Nachmanides, in his famous argument, described it that way. That is the opinion of Nachmanides. Wow. So
you telling me Nachmanides believes the Mashiach has been here for 2,000 years and he
explained the Agada in this way, yes. Well, at that time it was only 1,000 something years.
Oh, at that point, I understand, but I would assume that he was,
yes.
Yeah. But according
but it seems like he only did this to answer to the meaning. However, even though he said this to delay them, yes, this can be literal. He also says, I don't really believe it. It's not it's not really true in its direct way.
Well, thank you for the clarification, Nachmanides.
Or there's a hidden meaning beyond the simple. So how can we explain this in a more natural way?
Yes.
On the day of the destruction, there was born a Jew whose name was Menachem, who was worthy to merit, who was ready to redeem the Jewish people if they were victorious.
His name was Menachem?
His name was Menachem. It says Mashiach Menachem Shmo. Yes.
Wow, foreshadowing.
Yes. Anyways, since they did not merit, because clearly we were not redeemed in that generation, he, passed away from the world afterwards. And someone else came who in his place, who could be the Redeemer. And this is why in every generation you would think, who is the person who is the Mashiach of this generation, the person who came to replace the original Menachem, who unfortunately did not merit to redeem the Jewish people in that generation.
Alon's YouTube.
I am not meritorious enough, nor am I a descendant of King David, as far as I know, at least. So I think I'll leave it to the Rebbe to be the Mashiach of our generation and not try to take such honors. I appreciate the honor.
Such humility.
ולכן אחר חורבן בית שני, היה מנחם עובדה הנ"ל. אחר אחרית ימיו, והיה רבנו הקדוש. So, meaning, after the destruction of the second temple, literally was Menachem himself. There was a baby named Menachem who that was him, who merited to have the Jewish people merit. He would have redeemed the Jewish people right then. Afterwards, after him, it was Rabbeinu Kadosh, Rabbi Yehuda Nasi. And a different opinion. There are some of our sages who describe the whole story as a riddle. כדברי אברבנאל, the Abarbanel said, החכמים הראשונים היו מדברים בדרך פשט חידה. The first sages were not literal, that there was a baby named Menachem, or no, it was an allegory. כדי להודיע דבר מכוון נמשל או פשוט המשל. The purpose of it was not to say there's a boy named Menachem who's ready to redeem the Jewish people. No, it says that the moment that the temple was destroyed, the same time that Hashem destroyed the temple, he decreed that they're going to be redeemed. Right? It's the allegory that that day, the same moment that he destroyed, he already decreed that they were going to be redeemed. And to bring Mashiach Tzidkenu ligol et hamo v'linkoln keto, to redeem the nation and to avenge their vengeance. And this, based on this, they said Mashiach was born during the destruction. We're not talking literal birth. But know that Hashem had the thought that he's going to be born at the time of the redemption. Other different similar things the Maharal wrote in his words. This is not literal physical birth, like is every single birth. ורצונם לומר שנולד המשיח, דהיינו מצד עצם כוח המשיח, שהוא נמצא בעולם. Meaning, the sages are not being literal, they're just saying Mashiach was born. What does it mean Mashiach was born? Meaning from the side of the essence of the power of Mashiach that is in the world. וזה כי קודם שחדר הבית לא שייך משיח בעולם כלל. Until the Beit HaMikdash was destroyed, there's no place for Mashiach in the world. There's no need for him. What are you going to redeem the Jewish people from? They're in Eretz Israel. They have the Beit HaMikdash, right? The Redeemer, Mashiach, is only belongs in the world once the destruction happens. When the temple was destroyed, now there is this power that's brought into the world that didn't exist before the destruction of the temple. The power of Mashiach did not exist until the temple was destroyed, the second temple, because there was nothing to redeem the Jewish people from at that time. And the Rebbe also takes the middle path. The Rebbe says, no, there's a physical person of flesh and blood. So the Rebbe says we're not talking about literally that he leaves the air of the world that comes out, because then he's not really the Redeemer of the Jewish people. No, the idea is a revelation of the Redeemer of the Jewish people. Who is the revelation that there is a person who's ready and willing to redeem the Jewish people. So the Rebbe says, no, it's not a baby who's born on the day of the destruction. No, there was an adult, not a baby. If you're a baby that's ready to redeem Mashiach, you're going to have to grow up a little bit before you can, do any other things you need to do. No, the Rebbe goes further. There was already a person from the house of King David who was an adult, a grown-up, who was ready to redeem Mashiach at that moment, who was ready to be Mashiach and redeem the Jewish people. אומר הרבי כנ"ל שתם הדבר שמיד עם חורבן נעמד איש המוכן לגאול את ישראל הוא כי מרגע החורבן כבר יכלה להיות הגאולה על דרך דברי אברבנאל שמאז החורבן המחשבה לגאול ישראל. Why? Because from the moment of the destruction, God had the thought that the Redeemer is going to come. Meaning, as soon as the destruction happened, there's already the thought that the redemption is going to happen. ויותר מזו, שאותו האיש יש בו את נשמת וכוח המשיח שנמשכת בעולם מיד עם החורבן. And like we said, there's this power of Mashiach that entered the world, that is continuing in the world immediately from the destruction of the temple, and it continues. וזהו הפירוש נולד משיח. And this is the explanation of born Mashiach. Mashiach was born. שנולד באותו אדם כוח המשיח. The power of Mashiach was born by that person. וכן משמע גם מהקביעה של הרבי שנשיא הדור משיח שבדור. So when the Rebbe says the Nasi of the generation is the Mashiach of the generation, ומביא על זה ראייה מדברי הגמרא בנוגע לרבי יהודה הנשיא, and he brings the Gemara as they're describing Rabbi Yehuda הנשיא, שלכאורה אפשר להקשות על זה מראייה נגדית, מהסיפור אודות התינוק הנעלם, ששמו מנחם מבית לחם. It's difficult to, there's a problem because if you say that Rabbi Yehuda Nasi could be Mashiach, what about the other story about a baby that was disappeared? His name is Menachem from Beit Lechem. And this baby didn't lead the Jewish people, was not a Nasi in his generation. This baby that disappeared, that was born and disappeared seemingly. The story, the first story. על פי זה צריך לומר שפרטי הסיפור אודות שמו של התינוק מנחם ומקום מגוריו בית לחם יהודה, יש לראותם כמתייחסים בעיקר למשמעות הרוחנית של הסיפור. So the meaning, right? The details of the story about the name of the baby being Menachem and the place where he lived was Beit Lechem in Yehuda. These are all things that relate specifically to the spiritual meaning of the story. כלומר, לכוח המשיח הרוחני ששמו הוא מנחם. The power of Mashiach, the spiritual power of Mashiach, whose name is Menachem, ובקומו הוא בבית לחם, and his place is in Beit Lechem. העיר ממנה באה משפחת בית דוד. Why? What's special about Beit Lechem? This is a lot of going don't know. They will say it's their city. No. You know what's special about Beit Lechem? Beit Lechem is the city of House of David. That is the city where the family of the House of David came from. It doesn't mean that Mashiach of that generation, his name is Menachem, or that he is from Beit Lechem. The reference to Beit Lechem is to say that it's from the house of King David, which was from Beit Lechem.
I didn't know that King David was from Beit Lechem.
Yeah.
He was born there?
That's where his family is from, yeah, I believe so.
Okay, good.
This is why the non-Jews stole it and said, see, it says Beit Lechem.
Right. What's the difference between a Nasi and a Navi?
A Navi is a prophet. A Nasi is an elevated one, a leader of the Jewish people.
Like a judge or a king?
Like a king, yes.
Close to a king, okay.
Well, a king is a form of it.
Nasi.
Yeah. So when you look at the Torah, the leaders of the tribes were each Nasim.
Is the Nase, is the root word the same as Nase v'nishma?
No, it's a different, Naso, to elevation. He's the one who was elevated from the nation, basically. Gotcha. The elevated one would be the closest to direct translation.
Can I get like FaceTime on the YouTube at some point, or am I just going to be a voice in the background?
If you want to sit on this side of the table, you're welcome to join me on this side. It's up to you. I'm recording, so I generally assume people don't want to be on the YouTube, but if you want FaceTime,
I'm a publicity hog, like at some point, maybe not today.
Okay. ועל דרך זה המשך הסיפור אודות העלמותו של התינוק שלפרש בדרך משל שהכוונה להסתדרות והתעלמות עניין המשיח וזהותו קדומה. So what does it mean the baby disappeared? Right? That part of the story, how does the Rebbe explain? How do we explain it? The baby disappearing, meaning the concealment and the hiding of this idea of Mashiach and who he even is, right? It's as if it's a baby who disappeared. Where is this Mashiach? Who is he? We no longer know, right? So, what about the rival who, I think it's Rabbi Yehuda ben Labish. I'm not 100% sure. Who met Mashiach in the gates of Rome. What is that all about? מדברי השדי חמד, הנ"ל משמע שמפרש גם סיפור זה כפשוטו. He explains it literally. כהמשך דבריו שובו ליל, רבנו הקדוש בדורו אמרו וידעו שהוא מוכן. About Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, the holy Rabbeinu, in his generation, they said, and they knew that he was ready. ואחרי מות רבי, היה מי שדיבר עם רבי יהושע בן לוי בסנהדרין. After Rabbi, there was someone who spoke with Rabbi Yehuda Yoshua ben Levi. Maybe that's Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi. That is the person. Now we have the initials. Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi.
Yeshua?
Yehoshua ben Levi בסנהדרין. ואילו אברבנאל לשיטתו ביאר סיפור זה בדרך משל וחידה. The Abarbanel in his method again said, no, this is an allegory. והוא שאל עוד, איך היטיב? כלומר, באיזה דבר יהיה משפטו ומעשהו? על מה הוא יושב? והם השיבו, הבטחה דרומי. כלומר, שסבוך למפלת רומי תהיה ביאתו. Meaning, like he said, that soon after Rome falls, then Mashiach will come. That was the answer. Well, when are you going to come? Soon after Rome falls. כי הנה המשיח קיבל המלכות בסוף מלכות רומי. Why? Because Mashiach received the kingship at the end of the kingship of Rome. בדומה לזה כתב המהר"ל, meaning like Rome came and near the end of its time, that's when the Beit HaMikdash was destroyed. בדומה לזה כתב המהר"ל, ומה שאמר דהיטיב על פיתחה של מלכות רביעית, דבר זה גם כן, כי בציור המושכל של משיח, נמצא משיח על פתח מלכות רביעית. Why? Because when you think about the image of Mashiach, you find Mashiach on the opening of the fourth kingdom. וגם בזה דרכו של הרב בביאור הסיפור היא ממוצעת בין שני הדרכים. Again, the Rebbe finds a middle path between the two, the complete allegory of the Barbanel and the literally, yes, this was a person, this is talking about, you know, someone who spoke to Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, the Sanhedrin, right? So how does the Rebbe explain it? כי מחד, גיסא משמע דבריו שמפרש את הסיפור בדרך של משל וחידה, לא כדברי השד"ח. In one way, he explains it in an allegory. שאין משיח מצורע כפשוטו יושב בשער רומי כפשוטו. He doesn't say, no, Mashiach is not literally a leper who's sitting in the gates of Rome. Right? So that's the שהרי כנ"ל המשיח הוא נשיא ומנהיג ישראל בדורו, because Mashiach is a leader of the Jewish people in his generation. ולשיטתו של הרבי, אחרי אריכות ימם של הרבי, היה תלמידו רב בבחינת משיח בדור. And after Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, we know it was his student Rav who was in the level of Mashiach in the generation. ועל דרך זה לגבי שאר תלמידיו, and similarly the other students, Rabbi Shila, Rabbi Yanai, Rabbi Hanina, etc. אך את הנמשל מפרש בקשה. So how does he go with the allegory? What was it? כבוד המשל, ולא כבוד בני המר"ל. It doesn't go so far as to say it's just an allegory. שהנמשל מדבר על איש בשר ודם. No, he says, there is a person of flesh and blood. הנמצא בין ישראל המצטערים בגלות, והוא מצטער יחד עמהם. He is with the Jewish people in exile, and he feels their sorrow. הוא ממתין ומצפה בקוצר רוח לגוי ישראל, and he can't wait to redeem the Jewish people, as was explained. אך כל זה הוא בנוגע לסיפורים מפלאים אודות תינוק הנעלם והמצורע משער רומי. All this we're talking about is about these stories in the Gemara. אך כאשר רב אומר על רבי יהודה הנשיא שהוא משיח שבדור, and Rav, the famous student of Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, says he's the Mashiach of the generation, אז הדברים פשוט שם. When Rav says Rabbi Yehuda Nasi is Mashiach of the generation, that is very literal. This is not an allegory. This is Rav saying, this is the Mashiach of this generation. There's no, this is not an allegory. This is a student looking at his holy master, whose literal name by Jewish people to today is Rabbeinu HaKadosh, the holy Rebbe, right? and Rav, his student, who is the next Mashiach of the next generation, says this is the Mashiach of this generation. So now we have some very famous words. Next we have Rav. If from the living he is. This is עוד הוא בתוך הפרק דברי רב במסכת סנהדרין. In the chapter we talked about the words of Rav in Masechet Sanhedrin. What does Rav say? If Mashiach comes from the living, he is like our holy Rebbe. What does Rashi explain this meaning? What does it mean? If Mashiach מאותן שחיים עכשיו, ודאי היינו רבי הקדוש. Rashi explains this sentence simply. If Mashiach is from those who are alive right now, he is certainly Rabbeinu HaKadosh, Rabbi Yehuda Nasi. This is certainly Mashiach, if he's from those who are alive now. שבדברים אלו מוכיח הרב בשיחת שבת פרשת תזריע מצורע תשנ"א שמשיח נמצא בעולם בזמן ומקום הגלות. From this, the Rebbe actually proves out that Mashiach is in the world in the time of exile, because here Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, according to Rashi, the commentator of the Pshat, the simple, not Kabbalistic, he was very focused on this is what Rav said, that if he's from the living, this is who he is. והנה שם בגמרא מובא גם המשך דבריו של רב, אם חיה הוא כגון רבנו הקדוש, אם מתיה הוא כגון דניאל איש חמודות. Next, there's a line that this is many don't know. If he is from the not living, he is like Daniel, the man, the beloved. ולכאורה יש כמקום להבין שרב מסתפק עם משיח מאותן שחיים עכשיו. You could think, based on this, that maybe Rav is not sure. Is he going to be Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, or is he going to be from the people who have passed away, like Daniel, right? או שמה יהיה מן מתיה. ולפי זה נפלה כל הראייה להוכיח שבכל דור ישנו אחד המוכן לגאול ישראל. שהרי ייתכן שהגואל יהיה מדורות הקודמים. So if that's the case, you could say, well, maybe it is Rabbi Yehuda Nasi now. Why would we say it's our Rebbe? Rabbi Yehuda Nasi was worthy to be the Redeemer. Maybe it's Rabbi Yehuda Nasi. Why would we say that it's our generation? Maybe this generation doesn't have one, and it's someone from the previous generations. This is the thought. If you say that it can be from the dead, maybe it's from previous generations. So seemingly, right, that contradicts the idea that every generation has their own Mashiach, because then why would it be from the dead? However, the Rebbe in the Sikha only quotes half of the words of Rav. The Rebbe only quotes if he's from the living and doesn't talk about if he's from the dead, from those who passed. But if you look at the words of Rashi, you can understand. Rashi is very exact. וכתב, אם משיח מאותן שחיים עכשיו עדיין הוא רבנו הקדוש. ואם היה מאותן שמתו כבר היה דניאל חמודות. So he says, no. If you read the words of the Rashi, he says, if Mashiach is from those who are living, then he's certainly going to be our whole, the Rabbeinu Kadosh. And if he was from those who already passed, he would have already been Daniel. הרי שרש"י משנה בלשונו מהרישא לסיפא. Rashi switches the words from the beginning to the end. About the Rebbe, the holy Rebbe, Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, he says in the present. But about Daniel, he's talking about in the past. So since Daniel wasn't the Mashiach, then it's certainly from the living is the way you can explain the Rashi. It's really interesting. Meaning, from this, Rashi explains that it's not the purpose of Rav to bring up the possibility that maybe Daniel is really Mashiach. No, he's talking about a possibility. Daniel could have been Mashiach in the past, but now it no longer exists. This possibility is no longer there. If Mashiach came in the previous generations, he could have been Daniel. But since we know Daniel did not redeem the Jewish people, then certainly it's not going to be Daniel. So when Rav says, if he's from the living, it's not because it is possible the Mashiach will be from the dead. No. It's because there's a possibility that this generation also would not merit. And then Rabbeinu HaKadosh will not be Mashiach in actuality, only in potential. But some from future generations. This is it's a very strong one. I have to send this part to Rabbi Peel because he translates it in a different way than I'm translating this. Menachem Shmo. Menachem is his name, right? We said previously that when describing Mashiach, and our sage says Menachem is his name. ועוד והוא בתוך הפרק דברי חז"ל בנוגע לשמו של משיח, שמנחם שמו. Right? It says in the chapter, in the words of our sages, Menachem is his name. Right? שדברים אלו מקשרים לסידורנו ששמו מנחם. And this certainly can connect to the leader of our generation, whose first name is Menachem. Right? That's the Rebbe's first name. ולהעיר, שם בגמרא נאמרו כמה תשובות על השאלה מה שמו של משיח. And we have to mention in the Gemara there were several answers about the question, what was the name of Mashiach? Devei Rabbi Shila Amra Shila Shmo. Right? We have Rabbi Shila said Shila will be his name. Rabbi Yanai said Yanun Shmo. Rabbi Chanina said Chanina Shmo. Yesh omrim Menachem ben Chizkiah Shmo. And some say it's Menachem the son of Chizkiah is his name. אמנם יש חילוק ברור בין שלושת השמות הראשונים לשם הרביעי, ששלושת השמות הראשונים נאמרו בקשר אחד המורים, שהיה באותו הדור. The first names were clearly said based on one of the Amoraim that was in that generation, one of the great leaders of the Jewish people of that generation. Rabbi Shila, Rabbi Yana, and Rabbi Chanina, who were three of the great leaders. שמכוח הציפייה והתקווה שתלו בכל אחד שהוא יתגלה כמלך המשיח, each one was someone that they thought would be worthy and meritorious to be revealed as the Melech HaMashiach. And they found that it must be his name. The fourth name, Menachem, was not said about a particular Amora, just in general. ולכאורה אפשר להבין מזה ששם זה הוא שם כללי ועיקרי יותר משאר השמות המוזכרים שם. So this means that the name Menachem is a more general name and a more important, so to speak, central name than the other names. Because the other names talk about specific people who lived in that generation. While Menachem is not speaking about an Amorai. וכן מובא מדברי ירושלמי הנ"ל אודות לידת משיח ביום החורבן שאחז לו לעיקר את השם מנחם. And the Yerushalmi Talmud says, he chooses, when it speaks about it, he says only the name Menachem. It doesn't bring the other names, I guess.
Menachem is a fan favorite.
Yeah. Says, yeah, בגמרא משם כי חיורא דובר בשמו וכן בעיקר שם שמו בנאמר שמו ושמן שכמובן מראים לו שמו של משיח ושתו לכיוונם של משיח. So there are other names of Mashiach that is brought in Yerushalmi, but those seem more like attributes and not the actual name. There's a side note. All right, bet. So this is one when we're talking about bet. בגמרא בסנהדרין שנאמר מנחם בן חזקיה שמו. In the Gemara Sanhedrin it says Menachem the son of Chizkiah is his name. כשם אחד, it's one name. מנחם בן בירושלמי מצוין בתוך הפרק נאמר זה כשני עניינים נפרדים. In Yerushalmi it's actually two ideas. ששמו מנחם ושם אביו חזקיה. His name is Menachem and the name of his father is Chizkiah. ואיך הרבה נאמר מנחם שמו סתם, and in איך הרבה it just says Menachem is his name. ובדבר מלכות שבת פרשת תזריע מצורע הנ"ל מצוין שמרש"י בסנהדרין משמע שגם שם הייתה גרסה שרש"י שואל אותה מנחם שמו. So according to Rashi, there's also an opinion in Sanhedrin that where it said just Rashi, that Rashi just removes, but it says Menachem is his name. But either way, it doesn't mean literally his father's name must be Chizkiah. Just like we call Mashiach ben David, even though he's not literally the son of David, based on his first forefather, David HaMelech, who is the king. And sometimes Mashiach is called Ben Ishai, who's the father of David. Why is he called the son of Chizkiah? Why? Because God wanted to make Chizkiah the Mashiach. He was a descendant of King David that was meritorious to be.
But I have a feeling he didn't handle that too well.
But he's not literally his father, but he's the descendant of Chizkiah.
Ah, I see.
All right.
Remind me real quick. Was Hezekiah like one of the more accomplished kings, or was he kind of like a?
He was a very righteous king in his generation, and yeah.
Okay, good. One of the few kings that got it right.
Yes, he was one of the. There's a reason why he was meritorious enough that he could have been
Ah.
That's the whole point. Right? He was very, very meritorious. He was a very holy king. To the point where God asked to make Chizkiyahu Mashiach, it says in Sanhedrin. God wanted to.
Well, then why didn't God?
Because the generation wasn't meritorious. As far as that would be the understanding I have.
Because we wouldn't even have to be studying this if only Hezekiah had come through.
Well, it's not necessarily Hezekiah. It's the.
It was the generation.
Yeah.
Once again,
it's also I don't want to speak because I can't remember if it's Hezekiah. I think Hezekiah was the one who the problem was that he knew that he would have a son who would not follow in his footsteps, and he, if I recall correctly,
bad kids, no legacy.
Well, it's anyways. I'm not getting into that because I'm not sure that this is the right king, and unfortunately, it's been several decades since I've studied this at length. That part of the Tanakh, so I don't want to.
We'll look for the YouTube comments.
Yeah, I'm sure all 3 to 4 of my commenters will let me know the correct thing. Kol pirushim b'mamash. So what are we talking about? בהמשך לזה שעושים להתבונן בשמו המלא של נשיא דורנו, שראשי התיבות של שמו הוא ממש. If you look at all of the meaning of mamash, so if you look at the leader of our generation, his full name of the Rebbe is Menachem is the first name, starts with the letter Mem. Then obviously Mendel is the second name, it starts with the letter Mem. And then Schneerson, right? So that all 3 letters make the word mamash, literally. Mem, Mem, Shin. Ki betivat mamash yeshna mashmuyot amukot. In the word mamash, there's very deep meanings. Shenitbaru bekam mekomot b'torah shel Rabbi. The Rebbe actually explains the meaning of mamash in several places. Since we know anything that can be explained on one word are all interconnected. If you have multiple explanations about one word, then they have a connection between each other. All of these ideas of literally emphasize the reality and the idea of the leader of our generation. Because what is his grandest point, his most biggest focus, was to literally bring us to the days of Mashiach. So the word mamash comes to show about the main part of it and the truth of this, of something. But it can be explained in 2 seemingly contradictory methods. So is the most important part the highest point, the most inner point, the highest point? Or is the most important part the external part that is revealed, right? Is it, which is gashmiut shebegashmiut? Is the most important part the spiritual of the spiritual or the physical of the physical, right? Which one? And it could which one is the mamash talking about? Is it talking about the most physical thing, this literal table, this literal physical, or are we talking literal mamash, the inner of the inner parts, the most holy? So an example, Rashi talks about the pasuk, and Yaakov sends angels. Malachim, mamash, right? Angels, mamash, literally. What does it mean? Rashi says, no, it's literal angels, not messengers, who sometimes are called angels. No, actual angels. Malachei Elokim. We're talking about godly angels and not messengers of flesh and blood that are also sometimes called malachim. אחריו המגיד מפרש את דברי רש"י שיעקב שלח לעשיו רק את הממשות של המלאכים, את החיצוניות שלהם, אך עיקרם פנימיותם של יעקב. However, the Rav Magid explains the words of Rashi that Yaakov sent only the essence, the mamash, the physical part of the angels, their external part, but their main part and their inner part stay with Yaakov. בכללות המציאות תיבת ממש יכולה להורות מחד גיסא על עצמותו ומהותו יתברך, אמיתת הימצאו שהוא המציאות האמיתית, הממש של כל ההשתלשלות. So on the one way, mamash can literally talk about on one way the essence of God. Nothing is real except God. So he is the only literal thing, the only true existence. We're all like a dream of God, so to speak, right? But he is the only true existence. Because the whole creation starts with the infinite light, the infinite God. From a different way, you could say, no, the mamash is talking about the literal physical world.
Oh, mamash.
Right. Mamash, literally this table. Or are you talking about, the mamash? So again, it can be either one. These two meanings are connected to one another. What is the purpose of God's whole creation, of everything? The purpose of God's whole creation of everything is he wants us to make a dwelling place for him on earth. He wants us to make a place for him down in this physical world. And this desire is from the essence of the highest of highest. So this causes the yesh, the existence of the person, which is literally the lowest, right? In the lowest world, our physical existence, is one with the true yesh, the true existence, which is the mamash ha'elyon, the higher mamash, literal, so to speak. And in the world to come, it's going to be revealed that his essence is revealed and is going to live and dwell in this physical world. The essence of God is going to be not just experienced in heaven. No, it's going to be in our physical world. As Matityahu knows, what do we, the Tanya, the part that you say before you say Kaddish, that said in the Tanya about every Jew is a part of God above mamash.
Mamash.
Literally. We are
Literally,
we literally have a part of God above within us. So this too has two meanings. Aleph, the literal simple meaning is every Jew is a part of God himself and his honor in himself. Part of God's essence. Israel as it says, God and the Jewish people are one. Two, second way you could say it is a part of God above goes down and gets closed up in the body of a physical Jew in this world.
Wait a minute. The Mashiach.
Gashmiut shebegashmiut. Well, what's the question? We're not.
So Mashiach is the literal mamash manifestation of embodied of Hashem.
It's not just saying.
Not just Mashiach. Every Jewish person, right? Every Jewish person.
So
has
not special in that regard.
Well, we're gonna get. Wait, we're gonna get there.
He's
Mashiach
just like me, for real.
Well, yes, certainly. You are just like him in some ways, right? You also have a part of God within you, right? You literally, either it's that literally we're all part, or that a part of God goes down and comes into your physical body in the most physical things and is enclosed in it. The Gam kan shnei pirushim k'shurim lezen. These two explanations are connected. The choice of the essence of God is the physical body. Only through the service of your soul, as it's enclosed in your body, can be revealed its root, the root of his essence. And just like, so here's to answer. Just like this is true about every Jew, so much so, and in the most important, part is this is true about the Melech HaMashiach. He is the literal, the true mamash, literal truth of all the generations. From Mashiach, you listening?
Mm-hmm.
From Mashiach, we get, it goes through Mashiach, right? From him is revealed by every other Jew in the Jewish people. כי מחד גיסא הוא זה שהוא מאחד עם עצמותו יתברך ומאחד את כל ישראל עצמותו יתברך. One version is, he is the one who's united with God's essence, and he unites the rest of the Jewish people through him with his essence. In a different way, Mashiach is the one who literally enacts the dwelling place on earth, right? He's literally enacting the continuation of the essence of God in this physical world, right? And now we go back to the third meaning of the word mamash, Shmo shel Nasi Dorenu. As we said, that is the initials of our Rebbe. In one way, through our Rebbe is revealed the true idea of a Rebbe in general. And the truth of the idea of Mashiach in the detail. Which is one with the infinite one. Infinite essence of God as he was placed in a physical body. A different version is that he is him. That the Rebbe is him, he is the Mashiach, and he's going to complete the service of all the generations to continue the dwelling place on earth in this physical world. Literally, mamash. ונמצא שהוא הממש האמיתי בו מתחברים לכם שני הפירושים של ממש בצורה הכי מלאה. And through our Rebbe, the mem shin in his words, in his name, it connects the two meanings of both together in the most complete way, right? And so this is the idea, right, of the Rebbe, of Mashiach, of bringing it and connecting it to the world and bringing the holiness from above and elevating the world so that it can be a dwelling place for earth and connecting us to Hashem. All right. There's no obligation to search who's Mashiach. That's something we're going to learn next. We pointed out that in all generations, and this is not something that is unique today to the Chabad movement, who many point to the Rebbe and say this is the Mashiach of our generation. It was a common custom of generation to point and say this is the Mashiach of the generation. We can follow in their path. We are Hasidim, and this is always what we assumed and viewed our Rebbes as the leader and the Mashiach of our generation. But the Rebbe says there's no obligation to figure out who's Mashiach. We can understand the fact there's no obligation. It doesn't contradict. Why? Obligation is one of the 613 commandments. There is no commandment to search who is Mashiach. There's nowhere in Shulchan Aruch it says you have to figure out who Mashiach is and point and say this is Mashiach. No. You can never say this person is Mashiach, and you've not lacked any of the 613 commandments. No one's going to go to court with you over this, right? But this is a good thing. It's a good thing and a desired thing to try to figure out who's Mashiach. No, it's not an obligation, but it's a good thing to do. In one way, we're required to await and believe the Mashiach can come any day, right? And if you're connected to your Rebbe, you appreciate him with a real appreciation. And so certainly, it's naturally connecting the two ideas. The Mashiach who they are awaiting is likely the Rebbe who they are connected to, who they feel themselves connected to. Especially in a generation where Mashiach is a lot more revealed in all its power. ואין צריך לחפש, so you don't need to really search. אלא שרק לא להתעלם מנוכחותו. All you need to do is stop ignoring his presence. ולחידוד הדברים באותה מידה שאין חיוב כלל לחפש מי הוא משיח, יהיה נכון לומר שאין חיוב כלל לחפש מי הוא נשיא הדור, ובכלל להתקשר אליו. Same way you could say there's no obligation to search who's Mashiach. It's also true there's no obligation to figure out who's the Nasi of the generation and connect yourself to him. There's no obligation to do this. ובטח שאין חיוב לפרסם אותם לכל יהודים. There's no obligation to spread this throughout all the Jews. אלא שזו הנהגה מבקשת שיודעים הרואים בנשיא הדורות, הנשמה כללית. However, it's a good thing for Jews who see in the leader of the generation the general neshama kalalit, the general soul. במילא הם מתקשרים אליו וכלל ישראל, הדרך זה וגם שכנע, and they connect to him in a natural way because he is the Rebbe, they view him as the likely Mashiach. So certainly they're going to tell other people that this is our Rebbe, this is who we think is the Mashiach of this generation. So we have finished chapter 28. I give you a little bit of a preview of what we're going to talk about in chapter 29, and then that's where we're going to stop because we went deep into the details of chapter 28. Chapter 29 is the revelation of Mashiach, התגלות Mashiach. So, בפרק קודם דובר על משיח שבדור ממתין ומצפה לגאול ישראל. ובפרק זה שאחריו ידובר אודות הזמן בו משיח מתגלה וגואל את עם ישראל פועל. So, the previous chapter, which we just finished, we talked about Mashiach in the generation who waits to redeem the Jewish people. Chapter 29, and the chapter after it is going to talk about the time when Mashiach is going to reveal himself and redeem the Jewish people, literally, in actuality.
That can't happen soon enough.
Should be happening very soon. It's the world is getting prepared for it too. It's in many ways the fact that the world cares about things that they've never cared about, right?
Yeah.
In
Big earthquake for Al-Aqsa.
yeah, I mean,
No, I don't think they'll get the permits to rebuild.
in any case. והנה בהתגלות משיח כמה שלבים. There are different, as we said, steps, stages. בהתגלות אפשר למר בצל שלושה עניינים. There are three parts. בתחילה ישנה עניין רוחני. First, there's a spiritual idea. שמשיח מקבל שליחות אלוקית ומתגלה בו נשמה וכוח המשיח. First, he receives a divine, becomes like a divine messenger, so to speak, and he reveals within him the soul and the power of Mashiach. בהמשך לזה משיח מופיע עוד קודם הגאולה, ומבשר לישראל בדיבור על הגאולה הקרובה. Then he reveals himself, and before the redemption, and he tells the Jewish people with speech about the redemption that is coming very soon. ובהמשך לזה משיח אכן עושה פעולות משיות, and then Mashiach literally starts doing physical actions. עד שגואל ישראל בגאולה שלמה, until he redeems the Jewish people. That's how, this is the preface. ואולי אפשר להגדיר את זה על דרך שלושת העניינים של מחשבה, דיבור ומעשה. Perhaps, meaning this is Rabbi Wolf's opinion now, you can define it based on the three ideas of thought, speech, and action, right? התגלות נשמע משיח. First, you have the thought, so to speak, the revelation of the soul of Mashiach. שזהו בעיקר עניין של משיח בינו לבין עצמו. This is between Mashiach and himself. This is not related to others external yet. על דרך מחשבה, this is like thought. בשורת הגאולה, announcing that the redemption is coming, that's speech. The גאולת ישראל בפועל ממש, מעשה, and the action, the redemption itself.
Amen ve'amen.
והרמב"ם בהלכות מלך המשיח מתאר בעיקר את התגלות משיח במעשה. The Rambam, we're going back to what we were talking about in the beginning. The Rambam talks about specifically how the revelation is going to come. פעולותיו של משיח, and the actions of Mashiach to bring the redemption until the redemption itself.
The revolution will not be televised.
Might be. Depends if it's Shabbos or not. ומקומות אחרים, כולל בספרי קבלה ודברי הרבי, מדובר על ההשראה והשליחות האלוקית והתגלות כוח המשיח הרוחני. In different places in books of Kabbalah and the words of the Rebbe, it's talking about the messenger, the godly messenger, the revelation of the power of Mashiach that is spiritual. And the next three chapters, we're going to explain this from above to below and the whole order of how this revelation is going to be. So it's gonna get real good. And I hope to see you guys all back here next Monday at 8.
Yep.
I am aiming to, throughout winter, to continue doing this class at this time, including after the time change. And I hope to see people here both live and on YouTube, and may all merit to have Mashiach teach us all these things himself, so I don't have to continue doing this. All
Amen.
right, shkoach, all the best.
So you're saying that you're not Mashiach.